Trump has to be the worst president ever. Name one thing the president's done that's bad for the country. Okay, great. Well, here's a few examples. I've included citations and links to all my sources. Trump 2020! Woo! Did you check out the links that I sent? Fake news, snowflake! Besides, everybody knows that Sleepy Joe and Barack Hussein Obama developed the COVID virus in a Chinese lab. They even got the Bill Gates to 5G all our brain. Oh, well, I'm actually glad you brought up COVID, because if the president doesn't start taking coronavirus seriously... USA! USA! 4 more years, libtards! Woo! Trump 2020! Woo! Every time I criticize Trump, I hear, but what about Obama? Like, consider all the kids on our southern border that Trump has put into cages. Oh, you mean the cages that Sleepy Joe and Obama built? This is what is known as a false equivalency. What'd you call me, boy? Look, even if it was true, I mean, how is that even an argument? Obama did it first. What are you, 5 years old? Obama's policy was to separate kids from the adults they were with if the adults were caught with drugs, suspected of child trafficking, or some other illegal activity, and it was capped off at 72 hours. Trump, however, implemented a zero-tolerance policy, so every family that crossed the border was treated like complete criminals and separated indefinitely. As of last October, 5,500 kids had been separated from their families, many of which are still trying to find them. But Obama did it first! Ugh.
Ask and you shall receive. Let's talk about the difference between Chicano, Hispanic, and Latinx. I want to start off by saying this is a very emotionally charged topic. I am not Chicana. I'm actually from Nicaragua. So what I'll be sharing will not be emotionally charged. It's just based on the facts that I've learned. A Chicano is someone who is of Mexican descent who is currently living in the United States. This term actually became widely used during the 1960s Chicano movement, also known as El Movimiento. This was a civil rights movement that was created based on combating structured racism and empowering Mexican American achievement in the US. This was so revolutionary at the time that it was actually backed up by the Black Power movement. So the difference between being a Chicano and a Hispanic is that Chicano is tied to the Mexican nationality. Hispanic and Latinx, on the other hand, have to do with geography and language.
I can only take it up to here with dumbass comments before my head explodes, and right now we are at Vesuvius levels. Trump supporters, you are fucking hypocrites. You say you are pro-Second Amendment, but as soon as a black teenager holds up a squirt gun, that's grounds for murder. You say you're pro-life, but you support keeping kids in cages and don't give a shit about a woman who maybe just doesn't want to give birth to the baby of her rapist. 2 people died from Ebola under Obama's administration, and you wanted him to resign. 4 people died during Benghazi, and Hillary Clinton had to testify for 11 hours. 11 people on Trump's team have been charged with actual crimes, and as of recording this, over 130,000 American citizens have died from a virus and his incompetence, and yet you cheer for him at Mount Rushmore. Now, before you fucking insult me with something trivial, I want you to sit back and let it gestate. The man you care about doesn't give a shit about you, and he never will, and if my enthusiasm makes me a snowflake, then call this Game of Thrones, bitch, because winter is coming.
So I started being a racist right around 3rd grade. When I was a little kid, I had a best friend named Chris who was black, but I didn't see him as black. I just saw him as my best friend, Chris. But in 3rd grade, I learned about a man named Thomas Edison, who, as you all know, is the white man who invented the light bulb. Who I did not learn about is a man named Lewis Latimer, who, as you may not know, is the black man who invented the carbon filament that goes inside the light bulb to power the bulb. Right? So the engine in the car, if you will, was invented by a black man named Lewis Latimer. Now, is this some big conspiracy? No, Thomas Edison owned the company, so he got the credit. And the hidden figure that was Lewis Latimer, you never learned about. But the issue here is that as a white person, learning about all these white people who came up with these great things in their mind and no black people who did, I separated myself. I was separated from the black person, very slightly, but it was happening. But the core issue is that there's a black person watching this right now who knows damn well who Thomas Edison is, who has no idea that Lewis Latimer, a black man, invented that carbon filament that endures that heat so that that light bulb could shine.
What about black on black crime? What about black on black crime? What about it? That's not a real thing. Black on black crime is narrative pushed by white America to make black people sound inherently violent. Crime in America is very much caused by socioeconomic proximity, not race, other than hate crimes. What that means is, if I'm robbing you, I'm not going to stop robbing you just because I saw the white family portrait on your mantelpiece. And a black man has never killed another black man because he's black. To further prove that this isn't a real narrative, look at the white on white crime rate. Speaking in raw numbers, white people kill more white people every year than black people kill black people. But there are more white people in America, so let's look at percentages. The white on white murder rate in America is 81%. But why doesn't BLM speak out about it? That's not their thing. BLM was founded to stop police from killing black people. That's like asking the Kellogg cereal company to also make breakfast bagels because they're kind of similar, I guess? Look up the Stop the Violence movement and the National Urban League if you want that. Please just do research before you speak.
Buckle up, because I'm going to keep making videos until TikTok either listens to me or completely destroys my account. So since my last video got taken down, I'm just going to re-say everything that I said in that video. Someone commented on a video that I had posted saying that white lives matter and that black lives will start to matter when they stop killing 1.6 people per day, and that being a slow year. So I responded with the fact that white lives can shoot up schools and still matter, that white lives can shoot up churches and still matter, that white lives can blow up buildings and still matter, that white lives can molest our children and still matter, that white lives can be serial killers and still matter, and that white lives can spew racist bullshit and still matter. And yet black lives have to toe the line and live a completely perfect life in order for their lives to matter. I'm not going to shut up and I won't be silent, so share this video and have a good day.
If I say all lives matter, I'm a racist.
Actually, no one is saying that all lives don't matter. Obviously, we know all lives matter. We love everybody. But when we say Black Lives Matter and you respond with all lives matter, it just means you're devaluing what we're saying.
If I stand for my flag, I have to apologize for it.
Wrong again. No one is telling you to apologize for standing for the flag. I'm a service member. Of course I stand for the flag. But when people kneel during the national anthem, they're highlighting a specific issue, and y'all convolute it by saying that they're disrespecting veterans and people that served the country.
I'm not allowed to go to church, but I can burn churches to the ground.
Actually, you're not allowed to congregate indoors for anything, not just church, and that's for your safety and mine because of COVID-19, unless you haven't been paying attention. And people aren't allowed to just burn down buildings. That's illegal. The majority of protesters are not advocating for you to damage public property. And during this pandemic, most churches are online anyways, so it's not like you can't go to church. This video has 500,000 likes, and I just debunked half your shit.
This is going to change how you think about everything. For this, you need to remember two facts. One, matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Two, every cell in your body is replaced by a 7-year period. This one means that every atom in you was there from the Big Bang. Every single particle in you is as old as the universe. Now, if your cells are replacing themselves every 7 years, you are physically a completely different person than who you were 7 years ago. But then the question comes, how are you still the same? You're not a different person, you're still the same person in a different body. So if we're not our bodies, what are we? We are a pattern. We're like a washing machine for atoms. All of the atoms in the form of nutrients are just going through us. A single atom throughout its immortal life can go through millions of people, millions of things. Throughout our entire lives, we're just exchanging atoms with each other. Like blood cells in the living being. And the living being is Earth. That's the only constant. All of the atoms pass through the Earth in us like we're all just parts of a living being, like organs. Scientifically speaking, we are one organism.
So I've seen these documents going around the internet a lot, Jane Doe versus Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. So it basically describes the sexual misconduct and sexual acts that they inflicted upon a 13-year-old girl at Jeffrey Epstein's residence in Manhattan. So I went to the Public Access for Court Documents website, went to the jurisdiction in which this case was filed, looked up the case number, found it was real, ran the report, and what do you know? Jane Doe versus Donald J. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, originally given to Judge Ronnie Abrams, who was appointed by Obama. Then it was reassigned to Judge James C. Francis, who was appointed by Ronald Reagan. And the case was terminated 4 days before the 2016 election. If you support Trump, you support a fucking pedophile.
Nobody knew there'd be a pandemic or an epidemic of this proportion.
There may and likely will come a time in which we have both an airborne disease that is deadly. And in order for us to deal with that effectively, we have to put in place an infrastructure, not just here at home, but globally, that allows us to see it quickly, isolate it quickly, respond to it quickly. So that if and when a new strain of flu, like the Spanish flu, crops up 5 years from now or a decade from now, we've made the investment and we're further along to be able to catch it. It is a smart investment for us to make. It's not just insurance, it is knowing that down the road we're going to continue to have problems like this, particularly in a globalized world.
Do you know the co-owner of Netflix, Mark Randolph? Do you know who his great uncle is? Edward Bernays. And so his great granduncle is Sigmund Freud. Now, if you don't know who Edward Bernays is, he is the father of propaganda. He is the guy who created this whole consumerism culture. Sigmund Freud was a psychoanalyst, and Edward Bernays used his principles to manipulate the masses into buying things they don't necessarily need. Netflix is a propaganda machine. It is there to program you to accept certain agendas given to you by the globalists and the technocrats. That's why they have shows like My Secret Terrorist, which basically predicted the coronavirus outbreak. And so shows like this and many others program the masses into subconsciously knowing how to react when things like this happen in real.
3 food hacks I've learned since starting TikTok. Don't need this. 1, how to store your bread. Twist and roll over.
2nd, how to make a cheese quesadilla in the toaster oven. Add cheese to the top of tortilla and fold like an envelope. Toast for about 3 minutes, but that depends really on your toaster. 3rd and not least is the ultimate breakfast sandwich, where we put 2 slices of bread over our eggs and fold in half.
As a former Republican and as someone with tons of Republican family and friends, I am so embarrassed for the Republican Party right now. And this isn't just my opinion either. This is the opinion of my Republican friends and family. Multiple White House sources have come forward to say that Trump was briefed in regards to Russia putting bounty on U.S. troops' heads and did nothing. Continued to befriend Putin even though no one in his party thought that that was a good idea. Even the people trying to defend him said that there's a written daily brief that Trump never reads, and it was in there, but it was just never told to him personally. So worst case scenario, the president is a traitor. Best case scenario, he's too lazy to do his fucking job. And the most disgusting thing about all of this is Trump's only defense that he has no evidence to back up is just fake news, and his followers believe him. To the Trump supporters out there, he is psychologically removing the freedom of the press. Because no matter how much evidence the press has, his followers won't believe them. Freedom of the press doesn't exist if no one believes the press.
You know, when you go in the supermarket and you're looking at your fruits and vegetables, and you'll see this code on most of your fruits and vegetables. That's called the PLU code. And this code is not only there just to help the cashier know what to ring up, but it's there to kind of tell you exactly where your fruit or vegetable has come from. And so I want to teach you now so you can know when you go into the stores to always look for the code. If it's a 5-digit code and it begins with the number 9, then that means it is organic. If you see a fruit or vegetable and it's a 4-digit code that begins with a 3 or a 4, that means that it is possibly conventionally produced. And if you see a fruit or vegetable that begins with the number 8, a 4-digit code that begins with the number 8, it is genetically modified.
Some guy who lives in my city saw my TikTok about the Confederate flag, and he said I was never really exposed to it and I don't have Southern pride and heritage, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So I said, okay, I'll go even more in depth. So I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and when I was 5 years old, I moved to a city 20 minutes east of Dallas, which is predominantly Republican. So Texas and Tennessee are both in the Confederacy. So seeing scrawny white guys wearing their Southern heritage on their fucking t-shirts, I've seen my whole fucking life. 2, Southern heritage does not exist, and here's why. You don't see states like Pennsylvania and Massachusetts and Maryland and the other 10 colonies wearing a 13 colonies heritage t-shirt, because that doesn't exist anymore. That's part of history. America became a bigger union. We all became one. The Confederacy separated. That is the most anti-American thing you can do. So you saying that you have Southern pride and Southern heritage is disgusting, because those are words that cover up your racist values. That flag is inherently racist, and I cannot believe you are too afraid to admit that. Thank you.
I keep hearing people saying that they're protesting because the system is broken and it needs to be fixed. No, that's why we're not going to get change. See, I have a smartphone, and it has facial recognition technology, it has fingerprint technology, it even has a retinal scan. And as long as I am the one using the phone, it works perfectly well for me. If you use it, it doesn't work for you because you don't look like me. If I break my phone, When I repair it, it is repaired back to that same level what it was doing before. Working for me, not you. See, our system is not broken. It is working just the way it was designed to work. That's why we need to totally dismantle it and build something new that works for everyone.
Do not report hate crimes to police. The FBI found out that the police are no longer calling attacks on black and brown people by white racists hate crimes. That is so the police can say that hate crimes went down in the country. You have to bypass the police and go directly to the FBI because they prosecute hate crimes federally and give higher sentences. But we never report crimes to the FBI. Black and brown people don't, and the police don't. So the FBI Civil Rights Division is over here like, no one sends us hate crimes because no one knows about the FBI Civil Rights Division. The FBI is required to do a full investigation on every complaint made to them, okay? Bypass the police, who are racist as fuck, and go directly to the FBI Civil Rights Division and report it.